Hi, how's it going? Back again. It's the afternoon for me in New Zealand, and I know I've been away a long time because I've got a job now, so hence I haven't been able to do quite so many live streams or videos. I have spent a good chunk of time thinking very hard about this topic, and I hope that's going to be useful to somebody. I know it's going to be useful to me. A lot of the stuff that I'm making right now is actually stuff I'm going to be using myself. Okay, now you'll find the start time for this video down in the description like I normally do. Just remember that my live streams go unlisted, so you need to subscribe. You need to make sure that you have clicked the bell button and you have turned on your notifications if you want to actually get access to the live streams. Otherwise, you need to be a patron, because I put the live streams over to the Patreon page for them to watch. There will be an edited version of the live stream that I will cut down, but it will not include any of the Q&A at the end. Sometimes the Q&A is kind of sparse and not very useful, and sometimes it's very involved and hugely useful. So there are some benefits to making sure to be subscribed, hit the bell button, and notifications turned on. But I understand if you don't do that. Okay, now normally what I do is I present everything I have sorted out for my presentation first. You will see my face at the beginning and the end, certainly in the Q&A. I'm going to use a lot of slides because that makes life easier for myself, and I thought that would be a nice way to sort of enter into this topic. So we're entering into the realm of the Dragon of Icespire Peak. Kind of exciting. This will be the first of my Dungeon Master guides. Hi, how's it going? Is it Dungeon Fox? Hi, Dungeon Fox. Redwater, hi, how's it going? And who else have we got in the room? We've got Prepared to Cook and Survive. Prepared to Cook and Survive, hello. Leon Gunnett's here. And who else have we got? Darren's here, hi. Okay, all right, so settle back, grab a drink, grab some food, and yeah, hopefully I've got something good for you today. I certainly hope I've got it right. Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Weller, and today I want to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5e. Today's topic is a Dungeon Master guide for the Dragon of Icespire Peak. That's right, the new Dungeons & Dragons adventure for the Dungeons & Dragons Essentials Kit, the Dragon of Icespire Peak. Now, I want to make it clear, if you are a player playing this adventure, this is not the right video for you. This is for the Dungeon Master. You can come back and watch this video when you've played through the adventure and you're all finished. But till then, I'm sure you'll find many videos that are more suitable for players for today. The topic for today is adventure hooks for the Dragon of Icespire Peak. Very important, getting the players hooked into your adventure. And as there really isn't an awful lot of guidance in the adventure book itself, there are two insinuated adventure hooks, but not really direct sort of guidance. It is assumed the Dungeon Master will figure out what those two hooks are, or that they will look at the list of adventures and find one that seems to appeal to their players and build that in as a hook to start them off. The only problem is I've been reading through the adventure and it's not a strong adventure. I'm not saying that it's a bad adventure, but it has, like many adventures do, some weak points, and one of them is not necessarily being interconnected in a way that's easy to make it interesting for your players. I found less ways of tying things in than I could find with the Lost Mine of Phandelver. So my first suggestion for you is to utilize the Lost Mine of Phandelver. So Gundren Rockseeker and his brothers are close friends of the player's characters. They request protection for their mining operation that is now underway and taking place at Wave Echo Cave. Now, I'm not saying this is not the same adventure hook in the Lost Mine of Phandelver. They are not going to be looking after or escorting a wagon of supplies travelling from one of the cities to Phandalin. No, they are actually specifically hired to look after the mining operations at Wave Echo Cave. They can also do some moonlighting, so that means a little bit of bounty hunting if you like, or deal with the bounty board in Phandalin. That's all cool, but their job is specifically to look after the mining operation. Now I think that is actually very sensible. You can help tie that in using Lost Mine of Phandelver and the Dragon of Icespire Peak, particularly if you're going to combine the two. That would be my suggestion to you. Now the reason or the rationale that the Gundren is going to give is very simple. There are a lot of threats showing interest in the mine and in Phandalin, and so although there were lots of threats before, there's probably even more threats than there were before. And in other words, there's a lot more interest in a location that seems to be growing quite fast. And I would say that Phandalin is now at a point where it is in fact growing quite quickly. So that would be a way to hook them in for that. Make sure they are, as I've said in the past, close friends to Gundren Rockseeker if you're going to use this adventure hook. The other one that is kind of insinuated or suggested in the adventure, the Dragon of Icespire Peak, and that is that there needs to be a garrison at Phandalin. And I would suggest that the Lord's Alliance want to establish an armoured garrison at Phandalin to protect the locals from the growing threats and dangers to the town from orcs and other evil creatures or entities. This is probably the one that is going to be the strongest for anybody who is not using the Lost Mine of Phandelver. I think that is probably a really good way to pull them in. That would be my suggestion to you. Now I know the map that I'm presenting you is not the map that's in the adventure book for Dragon of Icespire Peak, but I don't have access to the map, so I couldn't put it up. But it's pretty close to what you already have in the book. The one in Dragon of Icespire Peak is just a bit more stripped down. Now who do they go and report to? I think the simplest way to deal with this is to have the players' characters reporting to the Town Master, Harbin Wester, for their assignments or quests or missions, and he will be the bankroll. In other words, somebody pays Harbin Wester to pay them, and I would imagine it'll be the Lord's Alliance paying Harbin Wester to establish and make sure that the place is protected. Another way you could look at it is you could have Harbin Wester collecting taxes to pay for your services to the townsfolk. So in other words, anybody in town would be paying taxes to Harbin Wester or a collection fee, and that would contribute to the player's character's salary or wages or payroll in some way. Another character you can utilise that was already well established in Phandalin, provided he's still alive, and that is you could have supervising the player's characters from the Lord's Alliance, a veteran called Sildar Hallwinter. I've already done a video on Harbin Wester and Sildar Hallwinter, although they are from different perspectives rather than from this adventure. I think you'll find there's enough information on those characters in those videos to help flesh it out. I think that Sildar Hallwinter makes a sensible and rational supervisor for the player's characters. Now, they do not need to necessarily have Sildar Hallwinter be their supervisor. They might simply have one of the members assigned as a constable or sheriff, and the rest of them are sort of like a deputy or have a lower station. So this gives your players the opportunity to discuss amongst themselves who they might like to actually lead the party if they want to have a leader, or have one of the players present their character and try to apply for the position of sheriff, rather than just being a garrison member or a deputy in some way. So that would be the second adventure hook that I would suggest to you and how you can build it into your adventure. Okay, number 3 is also very much spelled out in a roundabout way, and that is the dragon. There are rumours of a white dragon having been sighted in the location and attacking locals near the Sword Mountains. This needs to be investigated. Now, I would stress that when you talk to your players and you're discussing it with their characters, that you stress that their job is not to fight the dragon, certainly not at level 1 or 2, or probably even level 3. Their job is to investigate and collect information. They are not to engage the beast if it does exist, because right now they don't know if it actually exists. Remember, rumours aren't fact. So their job first is to establish, is there really a white dragon in the area, and does it pose a threat to the locals? Then they're going to report that back to whatever faction they are part of. Maybe it's the Lord's Alliance, it might be another faction such as the Order of the Gauntlet, or the Harpers, or some other faction. It might even be a nobleman or a noble person in one of the towns, or maybe they're simply going to be reporting back to Harbin Wester if you wanted to just use the town master as a point of contact for the adventure. I think that is probably one of the stronger elements to this adventure, is just there is a dragon to investigate and deal with, but not necessarily fight at this stage. That might come later, but don't present it straight away, otherwise you might wind up with a total party kill or a few dead characters a little bit quicker and sooner than you really wanted. Not that we're looking for that anyway. Number 4, in terms of an adventure hook you might be able to use, and that is orcs have come down from the mountains again, and they do this from time to time over the years, or every so 100 years or 50 years, or whatever you want to establish in terms of the history of Phandalin. I think it's been quite a while since orcs came down in large numbers. Certainly there was a small collection of orcs that came down during the events of the Lost Mine of Phandelver, but not necessarily a large force. And they are raiding around Phandalin, and so their job is to deal with the orcs. Now, who is presenting this to them? Who is going to pull them into this particular hook? There are 2 individuals that I think are probably most suitable. You can use Harbin Wester if you like, but we've kind of done that already with the Lost Mine of Phandelver, so let's not do that again. I would suggest that Sildar Hallwinter is trying to establish order and a safe location in Phandalin, and decides to approach one of his close friends, which will be one of the player's characters, or a number of the player's characters, or all of the player's characters, which would be much smarter. Sildar Hallwinter has approached them and asked for their help. That doesn't mean they won't get paid, but this is also kind of like a favour. So the motivation is not just money. And you'll notice with some of the adventure hooks that I present to you that I'm not always talking about they are being hired to do the job. In some cases, it might be because their faction has given them instructions to go and do it. In some cases, it might be friendship. In some cases, it might simply because they have somebody in Phandalin who is a close relative who needs assistance in that location, and they're going to support them while the place is established and made safe. Another character, if you want to go a bit darker and a bit more sinister, is Halia Thornton. This is the businesswoman at the Phandalin Miners Exchange, and I would present this much more in a you're being paid for services. So they're going to get paid 15 gold each to establish and secure her business interests under the guise of exchange security guards. They're not necessarily exchange security guards, and I would make it clear through Halia that she may want them to do other things, and she might not reveal that her intention is to take control of Phandalin, but that there might be some covert operations required. So this is more useful for a party or group of players who like to go a bit more on the dark side, a bit closer to a more evil alignment, or a more chaotic neutral, or chaotic silly, which tends to be the case. Most people, when they pick up chaotic neutral, is just an excuse to play an evil character or just play chaotic silly. And so you can use Halia Thornton to present that particular adventure hook if you wanted to. So that's number 4. The last one is by far the weakest and the one that I dislike the most, but I'm still going to talk about it, and that is the party is a team of bounty hunters. They are travelling around the Sword Coast, and they've heard that there is money to be made in Phandalin. And they look to make money off the misfortune of the Phandalin locals by going to this public bounty board that Harbin Wester keeps, or Sildar Hallwinter keeps, or whoever you want to assign. I think Harbin Wester is probably the most sensible individual, and they just they do it for money and nothing else. By far the absolute worst adventure hook you could possibly use. Now, all of these adventure hooks, you might notice, are loosely very similar. but just approached from a different angle. And that's, I think, the most I can pull out of it. There really isn't a very strong thread in the Dragon of Icespire peak. I did not see anything that indicated to me a way of making it stronger. And I spent a good week going through all of the material. Now, if you found this video helpful, informative, and useful, excellent, fantastic. I actually have hundreds of videos for players and dungeon masters, but specifically if you're dealing with Phandelver, I have a Dungeon Master Guide, a series of videos on the Lost Mine of Phandelver, which you may find very useful if you want to tie a lot of that information into the Dragon of Icespire Peak. If you want to support the channel so I keep doing videos like this, then you can support me on Patreon. I also have affiliate links to the book depository and Amazon down in the description or doobly-doo. I also have a merchandise shelf underneath the videos. Make sure to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell button to be notified when I go live and when I publish new videos. Very important. Make sure to turn on notifications. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. I'm not gone. I'm just fiddling around and getting myself organized. So start throwing out your questions and any feedback you might have. If you've already started running the adventure, let me know, because I've got to run this adventure at some point myself and I haven't had a chance to do so. So what you've got today is really my preparation notes, or the beginning of my preparation notes. I will pick what works for the group. It's not like I'm going to decide which one I like the most and that'll be what I use. I will try a couple of different ways of tackling this and see what the players bite onto. And I think you'll probably find you'll have to do exactly the same thing. Okay, all right. We're back to my face. And let's get through this. Now, look, I will answer questions related to the Dragon of Icespire Peak if I'm able to. Okay, I certainly will try. But bearing in mind I haven't run it yet. What I will also say is that if you have questions, whether you be a player or a dungeon master, unrelated to today's topic, if you have questions about anything, I'll answer those. Okay, if I can, I will. So by all means, throw them out there. All right, let's go to the top and work my way through real quick. I think we've already... Ooh, flower and fireball sounds like a dangerous and a combustible combination. Now, so that's weird. Do you know what I found is that YouTube's little bots are doing all sorts of crazy things. Just try time to... No, let's move on. Let's get on to something else. There's a lot of highing. Not too much is up, Darren. Hopefully I've covered the topic sufficiently in terms of people's satisfaction, in terms of leading them into this adventure. The Dungeon Fox can't stay, but thought I'd stop to say hi. Well, I'm glad you were able to stop by. Okay, Leon Gunnett. Actually started this one on the last week of August. Okay, on Discord Roll20, but the DM went on complete radio silence after session 1. Okay, since no one knows the guy, okay, nor each other. Oh, that's interesting. It's a shame. Okay, well, best case scenario, he is ghosting us. Worst case scenario, what happened here, he's been almost 2 months since he last heard of him. Oh, that's a shame. Okay, well, let's hope it. I mean, if he's just disappeared, maybe he's not well, or something else has happened. Okay, red water. Sometimes real life strikes. Yes, and it strikes Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons is such a time-consuming process. Whether you are a dungeon master or you're playing the game, you know, for a dungeon master, it's an enormous amount of investment in time. Even if you don't do much preparation. And for players, you're still looking at anywhere from 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, plus travel time, all of that comes in. And if you play for longer, that's a lot more time. So absolutely. Yeah, the natural enemy of fantasy roleplay games, absolutely. maybe Florin Icehammer. Now, I'm not too sure what that reference is to Red Water. Maybe Florin Icehammer. I'm not too sure what that's referring to. You'll have to give me a bit of context so I know why you're referring to that name. I know I think there's a character in there called Florin Icehammer, but there's so little information on the NPCs in the Dragon of Icespire Peak. You get a name, a location, and that's it. And really, you've got to do the rest. Pearsham, how's it going? John, how are you doing? You log off? No, I didn't log off. I'm still here. It should still be going. Don, what do you got here? Another great video, Fred. All your Lost Mine of Phandelver videos have been extremely helpful. Excellent. +1. Okay, well, thank you, Redwater. John, now, as I said, if you have any questions and any feedback you would like to give with regard to adventure hooks for Dragon of Icespire Peak, or any questions regarding Dragon of Icespire Peak, I can only answer pretty basic primitive questions at this stage. Okay, I haven't had time to do an awful lot with it, but I will answer other questions related to dungeon mastering or player questions if you have them. Certainly if I'm capable of doing so. Okay, John be good. Do you think it's worth buying? Yes, I do. My only concern, John, and I think this is probably why you're asking this question, is do you think it's worth it for the props and the material you get inside the box? And I feel like it certainly is. Or is the reason for buying the set or kit the adventure? And I would say to you that my feeling is, and my assessment of the adventure so far, is that the Lost Mine of Phandelver, even though there are problems with the adventure, and I've talked about them ad nauseum, I've talked about it a lot, I feel like the Dragon of Icespire Peak is extremely weak in comparison. That doesn't mean it's unusable or bad, but there are some weaknesses that the Lost Mine of Phandelver do not suffer from, that this new adventure does suffer from. So that means, for those of you who are probably already asking me, when am I doing a video about how to include the Lost Mine of Phandelver and the Dragon of Icespire Peak together, I would say I haven't figured that out completely, but I would start with the Lost Mine of Phandelver because the storyline is stronger and the NPCs, even in the adventure without my videos, there is more information for you to work with. Whereas you are going to have to do a lot more work with the new adventure, the Dragon of Icespire Peak. It's a much more sandboxy, it feels more like a video game where you get like a bounty board and you just go up to the bounty board and you do another quest. And there's no, there is a central quest taking place, which is deal with the big dragon, and chances are the dragon's going to show up a few times. It is still not a very strong adventure. I feel like the Lost Mine of Phandelver is significantly stronger than this one. Okay. The price is good for it. Yeah, particularly if you're buying it from Amazon and you're in the North America, you're getting a really good bargain. I can't say the same dependent on your price where you are in the world. So if you're in other parts of the world like South America or the UK, I'm not too sure about the UK. I think the UK prices are not too bad. It really depends. But my feeling is at this point it's a good product. It's just that the adventure is probably not as good as the Lost Mine of Phandelver in my view. You like my hooks, Darren? Okay, good news. Excellent. Pearsham, Fred, are you going to combine? Well, no, I'm not. My players, my home group, most of them have already played through the Lost Mine of Phandelver. One of them has already run the adventure. Another has played through it. So what I will do is I will have to build Dragon of Icespire Peak into a full-blown adventure. and make it a bit more substantial. And yes, that content will wind up in video form on my channel. But I don't plan to revisit the Lost Mine of Phandelver in this case. Okay? That doesn't mean I won't talk about how to combine them, because I have at least run the Lost Mine of Phandelver at this stage. Red water. What if we hyped up an ancient worm and then let them find a hatchling? Well, I suppose you could. I mean, there's no reason why you can't. I mean, you could find that the white dragon, it's only a young white dragon. It might be simply the offspring of a much more dangerous white dragon somewhere else in the Sword Mountains. And that's the real threat. This is just its hatchling or its offspring finding its way in the world and establishing itself. So certainly you could do something like that. Pearsham, what do you get? Maybe the Yakuza kidnap your DM. Alright. Red Wizard. Red Water. Florin Icehammer is a noble dwarf. Yes. But there's not an awful lot of information on Icehammer. Which is... Still, I guess where you're going from here is if Florin Icehammer is a noble dwarf, then probably has a lot of connections, a lot of money, and can bankroll the operation. So that makes, now I see where you're going with that. That makes a lot of sense, yes. Redwater, his clan is supposed to own some forge, if I remember correctly, and more importantly, the Ice Hammer. Yep. If you feel like that Ice Hammer would make a good patron for the players to work for, then go with it. Pearsham, where do you get all the hats? Well, I'm only wearing... I usually get them from like cheap Chinese emporiums and shops. We have things called the $1 shop, $2, $3 shop, things like that. But basically it's sort of an import store, and they bring a lot of this stuff in, certainly during Halloween and other times of the year when there's, people are looking for dress up stuff. So I have a whole bunch of hats that I use. This is the one I use the most though. And if you want more detail, Pearsham, I have a video on why I wear the hats. I made a video for the topic. Okay. Players do love their side quests. Well, there's plenty of side quests, so there's lots of choice. So that one of the good things about Dragon of Icespire Peak is there's plenty of choice to be had. Now, does that mean there's more choice than the Lost Mine of Phandelver? I would say no. I think there's probably just as many quests in the Lost Mine of Phandelver as there is in the Dragon of Icespire Peak, of which they do not have to do all of them. So, yeah. So it's not necessarily just a side quest adventure. It just, like I said, it just requires a bit of work. Okay, what's that? Red Water. Only source for Florin in Google Up now is the Neverwinter MMO. Okay, well that makes a lot of sense, because I don't believe, you were talking about a whole lot of stuff and I was thinking I don't remember reading anything like that, and then I'm like, I might have skipped past it or something like that or forgotten it. So yeah, so in other words, Florin is a character you're going to have to Google to find information on. Well, thank you for letting us know. That'll make life a lot easier when I have to do a video on that topic, and at least find some information for myself. Okay, Leon Gunnett, what do you got here? I am about to TPK and a one-shot campaign that's not going so well. Oh, okay. The players are having fun, but they are not going anywhere and want a change. And I want to end it with a bang. Fair enough. So you're actually planning to have a total party kill? I mean, I've talked about character death before and TPKs. I'm just curious as why you would want to engineer a total party kill. And I have had my fair share of TPKs and character deaths, as a result of being a dungeon master. It's dice, it's monsters, it's adventure design, it's player choice, it's all that sort of stuff. But I'm curious as to why you would want to actually... Do you know you can end a campaign without everybody dying? You know, that I think a lot of people still believe that something ends when a character dies, whereas you can end your campaign and have everybody just retire or separate or do something else. But you are the DM, so it's your call. They are already trapped and bloodied in a kill room inside first level of my mega dungeon. They are all level 4. Will a demi-lich be enough? Oh, more than enough. You want a full-blown lich as well. I'm not going to help you with the with a planned TPK. I'm not going to help you with that question. God. Okay, Pearsham. Let a pit trap. No, it's not pit traps. No snakes. Snake swarms and pit traps. Rot grubs. Oh, now you've got... Everybody else is helping you out. This is not the sort of thing I want to encourage. Okay, interesting choices. I may add them as a mob. My unhealthy relationship to MMOs was useful for once. Well, I'm going to find it useful because now I know where to go and search. I normally do search on Google for any information on the characters that I'm talking about. Usually I do that first. I'll research. And then when I can't find the information, then I have to make it up and come up with something myself. At HowtoDandD, never done a TPK. Just want to try it. Since we are going to continue, are not going to continue. Well. Fair enough, and I have always said try everything at least twice before you don't do it again. So I guess a TPK is something to try. Oh dear. Alright, Pearsham, what do you got here? Have them get drunk in a bar and aspire while drunk and asphyxiate on their own... Oh, that's terrible. One more question. Okay, red water. One more question. Okay, I'm staying around. I'm going to drink some water. I'm going to let you type. Okay, I know that you're going to put a question out to me, so I know that I don't want to jump away, so you've got time to type it up. Try to get the spelling right so I can understand the question. Okay, now, for those of you who are wondering what's going to happen with regard to the content that I make if I only do, just a couple of videos, like one a week or maybe 2 if I have time. Well, I'm going to probably sort of stagger it. There'll be like maybe 1 week there's a Dungeon Master guide or a Dungeon Master video. I'm not going to stop doing the Lazy Dungeon Master videos. I'm not going to stop doing the Curse of Strahd videos. I've still got one video that I want to do for the Lost Mine of Phandelver. I'm just taking my time with it rather than rushing. And I have every intentions of continuing to do the player guides. Simon's helping me with that, and so they'll be sort of like there'll be 2 of us talking, and I will still do the adventuring gear guides for now. I might shuffle that out eventually when I run out of things to talk about, but that's certainly going to come up. Okay, red water. Should the monster manual be renamed Wolfie Catalogue when a bard is in the group? I don't know. Does it need to be? I just call it the monster manual. You can call it whatever you like. If you're giving the monster manual to your bard to utilize because they know lots about monsters, I don't like the idea of giving the player the entire monster manual and saying, you know all of this about the monsters. So that would be my concern. But you are the dungeon master, and so what I have to say means very little. I am just giving you an example that I feel like that might be just too much information. All right, unless of course the monsters they encounter aren't necessarily all in the monster manual. so it won't matter too much, but they still got something they can flick through. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to give them like a monster guide or book that they can read physically, rather than have to create something yourself, which would be an awful lot of work. I'm not going to stop Persham. Simple Simon was a pieman. So me and Simon sat down and we did a review on the Acquisitions Incorporated book. I haven't got round or found time to actually edit that. Today's my day off and I've got to go back to work tomorrow. So as a result of that, that means I can't really do an awful lot of content right now. But I'll edit it, I'll put it up, and you can see what me and Simon have to say about that book. It's nothing good, I can tell you that now. Okay, alright, so just give them an ecology, not the whole manual. Yeah, I think you're right, Persham. I feel like an ecology or the fluff around it is probably better than all of the stat blocks. But the problem is, I know what your problem is, you don't want to create another document. You know, that would be a hassle, right? To try and transfer all of that information into another document that they can actually read. So I'm not sure how you can solve that problem. And I can't think of any book off the top of my head that you could just unveil or purchase or download or whatever and just hand out to your player who's playing the bard as sort of like a monster lore book. I feel like that's going to be, you know, there is something to be said for a player asking questions and them keeping a diary. And, you know, I used to keep a diary for the maps, so I used to map out our locations. I don't map out our locations anymore because most of the locations we're going to are so simple it seems to be pointless. Yeah, don't use the F word, mate. I know you used a hashtag, but don't put it in there. Okay, the machine can still figure it out. So yeah, type in here, but don't use swear words in the chat. Okay, even with hashtags and other letters to sort of give your point across. If you're annoyed about something, just say you're annoyed or you're angry. That's fine. I get it then. It's all right, mate. It's just, yeah. Right now, YouTube is going bananas, and so I'm being very careful. I've gone through a lot of videos, checking all of the comments and making sure I've got the comment is being sort of moderated by the machine as well, to make sure that I don't get myself into trouble. Because right now it would be very easy to do so. Yeah, cut and paste. Yeah, cut and paste works if you have a digital version of the monster manual, or if you have access to D&D Beyond. So if you have D&D Beyond, then you can cut and paste from there and then plonk it into a document. Or you might be able to, I don't know, screenshot it or use the snip tool if you've got a digital version. But yes, an ecology book for monsters. I've been trying to convince my brother to do some monster books and maybe we have some ecology or just information on those monsters. But, you know, D&D's my thing. It's not really my brother's thing. Hi, Mark. How's it going? The kids' monster manual just came out. It's pretty good. Oh, good. That's right. That's right. Now, what's that? Monsters and Creatures. That's a really good idea, Mark. That would be the book to buy or pick up. And now, once I start getting a bit of money, I might actually order that myself because I'm kind of curious. I like the idea of the monster book, the creature book. It's Monsters and Creatures. I think I put a post up about it and talked about it in a video a long time ago. Yeah, AJ's videos, AJ Pickett makes really good videos, but you still got to turn that into written content. The only way to get around that is AJ, if you're a patron, I think it's only like $1 a month is the most you have to pay, and you get access to all of his scripts, so all of the written content, so you can then cut and paste and then build your own digital document that you can then send off to your players. That would actually be quite a smart idea too, and it wouldn't really cost you very much to do so. It's like $1 for a month, and it's ongoing. AJ has no intentions of stopping what he's doing. He'll be going for ages. That book is $8 in the US on Amazon. Yep, I don't know. So if you're in North America, that's going to be good. And if you're somewhere else, you'll just have to check around. Check the book depository and Amazon. I know if you're in Canada, there's a couple of other suppliers that can be quite cheap as well, but I don't know enough about those places to be able to advise you. My suggestion is have a good search around. Get a good price. But yes, you would get an ongoing narrative on the ecology of a monster and how they work. He does talk a little bit about the mechanics, but you can pretty much cut that out fairly quickly without having to worry about it. The Fred word is fine. Yeah. The Fred word is fine. Food is fine. Yes. Banana is fine. Fabulous is fine. I don't even know. Felicitas. I don't even know. What is that? I'll have to look it up later. Cut and paste it. Okay. I have a house rule. Okay, thank you. Here we go. I have a house rule for that. If the species is an abomination, undead, animal, dinosaur, or doesn't have what's this? Discernible genitalia or gender, then the bard can't try to do the horizontal limbo with it. God, gee. All right. Dear. Obviously, some of you have not had enough of me over the last week. It's not some. God, dear. Red Water. I will just play him the AJ videos. Yep, on two times speed. Yeah, you can do that. I mean, honestly, I would go with, often what I'll do is I'll read out to the players some of the information, and they just keep a diary and write it down. Part of playing the game. And too few players have a diary. Most people just sit there, and if they have a question and they forget something, they will assume the Dungeon Master will tell them. I am prone to doing that myself. But as a general rule, I will pay attention to the key elements of an adventure. If there are key things that are said, then I'll deal with that. But yes, most of my note-taking tends to be around maps, just because I like drawing maps, I guess. There is a new manual, is called Monsters and Creatures. It is for kids. Yeah, we were talking about that, Mark. Yeah, absolutely. And this means, I don't know what that means. Shilling. All right. Books in Canada are ridiculously priced. Well, trust me, in New Zealand they are going to be different again. There are some places, I've had a few people who get quite upset when I do videos, and they say, look, you talk about this stuff, but I can't get this in my country. So if you can actually get these books in your country, you're doing pretty well. But I do understand the priciness of some of the stuff that comes out of the States. It's not going to go away, and in fact it will probably continue to increase. And I don't have an issue with that. They are looking after themselves, just like everybody else should. Red Water. Now Fred knows what... there's only two gender. I don't know what woofu. Well, you'd be surprised how many things. I don't know what that is. You're getting me confused now. Okay, look, I think we've certainly talked this to death, and now it's just fun and games. So maybe I will take off, In Argentina, the Player's Handbook, DMG, and Monster Manual cost about half my salary. Books are expensive. I can believe that. Yep. Darren, say a book is $15 in the US. Same book says 29 Canadian right now to the US. Not even a direct conversion. Okay, all right. As a package deal. Okay, I'm going to take off. I think we need to stop there. I'm sure there are expenses in the US as well. Okay, so let's not get on to the prices. Obviously, it's different for everybody and not everybody can access it, so we know that. We've established that. I'm going to catch up with everybody next week, so make sure you look after yourself. So wherever you are in the world, whether it be the morning, afternoon, night, early morning, look after yourself, your family, and your friends. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.